Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
Good evening, everyone. First tonight, there are fears housing relief is in sight or not in sight as new data reveals Hobart rents have tipped over major capital cities. A new prop track report outlined an annual hike of 8%, leaving social service organisations to question the way forward.
Bearing the brunt of a sector in turmoil, rents are being bumped, leaving tenants with no choice but to pay the price.
This forces people into insidious situations, so they have to make choices about whether they can eat or pay their rent.
Our state's capital, once an affordable hub, now one of the most expensive, pricing out weekly rental rates of Melbourne, Brisbane, Perth and Adelaide.
So many people have wanted to go and move to Hobart and Tasmania over the last 5 or 6 years, and there's been a critical undersupply of rental stock.
While the latest prop track data suggests the pressure should ease, regional Tasmania isn't immune, seeing a 10.5% annual jump.
Some of the smaller areas, the southwest and the northeast, we have seen quite strong increases in rent. So it looks like people are starting to look a bit further afield from the major capital city.
Amplified by Tasmanians bringing in some of the lowest wages in the nation.
It's simply extraordinary that people in Tasmania would be paying higher rental prices than people who live in mainland cities. Tasmanians just simply can't afford it.
Amid interest rate rises, renters continue to face a turbulent market. And the annual cost is mounting, with Hobartians now paying up to $26,000 a year in rent to put a roof over their head.
Vacancy rates are sitting at about 1% and a healthy rate is 3%. So it's really uncertain times for people living in private rental about actually being able to find a home.
As all levels of government attempt to find solutions.
We need to increase supply to meet demand, to bring rental prices and property prices for that matter under control and back to a more affordable level.
Grace Evans, 7 Tasmanian News.
It's still unclear who will pay for a proposed stadium at Macquarie Point, with the federal government yet to be asked for funds. The footy world is waiting to hear from club presidents about the bid, but some clubs are yet to decide.
There's a $375 million hole in the Macquarie Point Stadium proposal, and the attempts to fill it have barely begun.
So at the moment, the federal government hasn't received a ask from the state government.
A new stadium isn't technically part of our state's AFL bid, but the league's made it clear, no stadium, no deal.
Is the stadium a prerequisite for the club?
There'll need to be a new stadium, absolutely.
The state government says it will pay no more than half of the $750 million required.
I believe that the Prime Minister and the Premier have had discussions and preliminary discussions about that. There's obviously still a fair bit of detail to work through. I'm pretty confident that federal Labor, the federal government, will see the value.
It comes as questions are raised over the missing money. Collingwood President Jeff Brown says the Pies have concerns.
There seems to be a position taken by the AFL that somehow Tasmania is to be treated differently.
However, other clubs have spoken positively of the bid.
I expect that the presidents will come back by tomorrow with a very positive view.
However, Hawthorn President Jeff Kennett tells 7 Tasmania News his club still hasn't made a decision, nor has it been given a deadline by the AFL to do so. Josh Duggan, 7 Tasmania News.
It's still costing more, but Tasmanian drivers have been spared a major petrol price spike following the ending of the federal fuel excise discount a week ago. But with worldwide oil prices remaining volatile, we're being urged to fill up to avoid Bowser shock.
A good ride that has come to an end. The federal government's temporary fuel excise cut of 22 cents per litre ended last week. The change predicted to hit already struggling hip pockets.
In a 4 kilometre radius of the CBD, there's about a 10 cents a litre difference between retailers.
RACT figures show Tasmania's average unleaded price sat at around $1.75 per litre last Tuesday. Prices then jumped by 3 cents when the full excise returned. As of today, customers are forking out around $1.87 per litre. Just half the cost has been passed on, even as wholesale prices jump. Experts say some retailers are waiting until rivals are paying top dollar for stock.
they're holding their price to remain competitive until all of the markets got the higher wholesale price of fuel.
It's down to about 10 to 15 cents a litre profit margin. Now, we find that perfectly acceptable.
However, that could change, with OPEC to slash production by 2 million barrels a day.
Fill up, because you may not be able to fill up again at that price in a couple of days.
As always, consumers are being urged to shop around and use fuel price apps to ensure they get the best deals. The industry also asking us to be respectful towards service station staff, saying they're not the ones that set the price.
Be a little considerate that these are people who are just going about their normal job.
John Hunt, 7 Tasmania News.
TasNetworks has hit back at claims Tasmanians have been ripped off, being overcharged on power bills. A new report released by the Institute for Energy Economics and Financial Analysis alleges TasNetworks has overcharged for some of its services over the past 6 years.
Tasmanians are doing it incredibly tough. They're choosing whether to eat or heat their home. And it is extraordinary that they've been ripped off $232 million.
The report that was released has been widely disparaged by both the Electricity Networks Association and the Australian Economic Regulator.
The state government has accused Labor of scaremongering over the report. The SES has responded to half a dozen calls for assistance due to damaging winds. While TasNetworks is focused on restoring power to thousands across the northwest, it comes as more wet weather is on the way, with rain expected to lash the northern half of the state from this evening.
In the next 30 hours or so to the end of Friday, we're expecting widespread falls across the northeast and the northwest, around 30 to 40 millimetres. But notably, areas elevated in the northwest and northeast could see as much as 70 to 90 millimetres of rain.
We'd advise Tasmanians in the northern half of the state to start preparing their properties now for flooding. We'd encourage them to monitor the Bureau for their warnings.
A flood watch is in place with the potential for flooding in most northern river catchments. The Weather Bureau says the worst of the rain is expected early tomorrow morning, easing late afternoon. A woman is in a serious condition after a disturbance on Lake Leak Road yesterday afternoon. Police say initial investigations suggest an altercation occurred between two people known to each other. The incident resulted in a person jumping onto a slow-moving vehicle before falling off and landing on the road. She remains in the Royal Hobart Hospital. 2 teenagers have been charged with lighting a fire which destroyed a Devonport home on Monday. The house has since been slated for demolition. The 18-year-olds will face court again next month. One of the accused has also been charged over an earlier alleged arson at the same property late last month. The state government is committing $1 million for hospitality training courses. The money will allow provider VXT to continue industry-led taster courses aimed at introducing people to hospitality and touching up crucial skills.
We can continue to offer that training in regional communities and provide the training that's required to enter into the workforce and help with the workforce shortages.
We're trying very, very hard to make sure that what we get in is going to be ready, but ready quickly. So programs like VXT Hold have been absolutely vital.
In the past year, the organisation has conducted 44 courses involving 500 students. Teachers in isolated areas are set for a boost to their cost of living supplements. The Tasmanian Industrial Commission found district allowances from the Department of Education were frozen for a decade and decided to raise them by 24%.
I've talked to many teachers in the past and they said, gee, I thought Come to King Island was a really good idea. I thought I'd be able to save a little bit of money, but I'm actually going financially backwards. The cost of living, that they just couldn't endure it.
The Australian Education Union says the pay boost will help attract and retain teachers in areas with severe shortages. One of Tasmania's biggest and historic running events is preparing to celebrate its 40-year reign. The Cadbury Marathon will return this year, where thousands will hit the road, with organisers hoping to step up the offering to competitors.
We're looking to expand. It's an event that has a history of bringing over 900 people from interstate and overseas, so we're hoping to continue to push that and bring people to Tasmania.
It's part of the Tasmanian summer fabric, and we're determined to get this icon back on the road, not just as it was, but bigger and better.
Well, the action will kick off in Claremont just 8 days into the new year, but registrations are now open. Meanwhile, hundreds of athletes are gearing up to take on the ultimate feat, putting in their final training hours as the Freysing Challenge makes its return this weekend. The iconic multi-sport event, which is divided into 8 stages, will kick off at Coles Bay on Saturday.
I've been slowly ticking away at training, and I think I might be at a position where we might have a really tight fight, which would be nice. We'll see what comes on day one. The first run is the critical part. If you get that right, everything else might flow well, so we'll see how that goes.
It marks 21 years of the annual competition, with a new mountain biking course to be introduced as part of the celebrations. The Kellington Mill is well known for its flour production nearly 200 years ago, but it was just as well known for its history of making illegal whiskey. Now the historic site has reopened after a $40 million transformation with a twist.
Returning to how it started.
John Vincent, who built the mill, was making illegal grog 150 years ago.
Kellington Mill Distillery open, the redevelopment underway since 2015.
This region is a oat or a grain making region. We've got the fresh water and the cleanest air in the world, so it was only a natural fit to make whiskey.
Two of the partners attracted to the site because it's a reminder of home.
Sam and I originally come from a small town in Lebanon. It's very small and ours is just as small.
The Coalmark equipment described as the Rolls-Royce of distilling, made in the state's north at Westbury. The whole process is fully automated. Tasmanian royalty Bill Lark joining in on the celebrations, taking advantage of the distillery's self-guided tour, the business with 50 ongoing employees.
This is going to be a game changer for Oatlands, with tourist buses, restaurants, people coming here to buy whiskey.
The $40 million investment has been planned from start to finish with one goal in mind. That's to put Oatlands on the map.
Everything we've done here is with tourism in mind. From our heritage configuration out there, heritage offer, our blending room, the restaurant, the distillery visitation.
As for their favourites,
it's yet to come. It's a Kellington Mill produced single malt whiskey.
My favourite whiskey is the one that they produced for my daughter's wedding. It's just how smooth it is and how quick it can take you there.
Talia Jordan, 7 Tasmanian News.
Grey skies and showery conditions didn't dampen spirits as large crowds flocked to the Launceston Show, the first one since 2019. The event has found a new beginning at Quercus Park, the extra space giving exhibitors the chance to spread out.
For the third time in its history, Launceston Show has a new place to call home. From the early days at Elphin to a stint at Inveresk before COVID claimed the event. A mix of agriculture and amusements. It's been a winning combination for almost 150 years.
They bring the whole community together in many forms of engagement, and not just to come and go on side shows and buy show bags.
Roaring back to life after 2 years in hibernation.
Very exciting for us, new venue, whole new experience for everyone.
The sprawling grounds at Quercus Park giving stall holders and patrons more room to move.
Well, I'm really loving the new location this year. All this space is fantastic, lots of room for all these goats.
Allowing for some new exhibitors. Are you showing him today?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to get a toy.
Are you?
Yeah.
And a record field of dairy goats.
Crowds haven't been put off by the threat of wet weather, turning out in droves to sideshow attractions, with plenty on offer out of the elements.
Punters finding show magic in all corners.
Probably all the rides.
Yeah, there's a few rides, nice food, and there's some good animals up there, but yeah.
Motorbikes, yeah, pretty good.
The fun continues tomorrow and Saturday. Annie Green, 7 Tasmanian News.
A local dance festival is in full swing, celebrating the artistry and technique of thousands of young performers. 25 dance schools from across Tasmania have sashayed onto the stage for the Launceston Festival of Dance competition.
Tapping, tassels and tiaras, taking centre stage at the Launceston Festival of Dance. More than 1,000 competitors sharing the spotlight across 8 days of dancing.
It's just so much fun to just dance with your friends. You get to have your time to shine. And compete with your friends a lot, and you get awards from dancing your best.
The The tiny dancers have their eye on the prize, competing across various styles.
Our competition caters for children of all genres of dance, including tap, jazz, ballet, national, highland and song and dance work.
With solo to group performances gracing the stage with colourful choreography.
The talent here in Tassie and Launceston has been amazing. We go right from the little babies, the beginners, and then see the progression right through to the open sections where the standard is absolutely outstanding.
This year's event is celebrating a special milestone, marking 30 years of the dance festival.
And we wanted to do lots of special things for our competitors, so we're putting on a free workshop which is happening on the 29th of October.
Plus a special showcase of dance at the Princess Theatre in November. But the key takeaway for performers this week, don't stop believing.
Dance for the love.
With the love of dance definitely on display.
It's like really fun and you can just do what you love and enjoy it.
McKenna Bailey, 7 Tasmania News.
Tim Payne's return to first-class cricket hasn't gone to plan, as both he and Tasmania struggled on day one of their Sheffield Shield clash against Queensland. The Tigers were bowled out for just 147, with the former Test captain unable to crack double figures.
Tasmania was sent into bat on a green deck, with the Bulls' decision paying off early on.
Jewel edges and straight to slip, and Matty Renshaw takes the easiest of catches.
It was the beginning of a tough day. Tim Ward made just 15, while Ben McDermott didn't trouble the scorers. The Tigers limped to 3 for 52 at lunch.
Needs to come, drives it straight down, goes underneath Matthew Cunham. That will roll for 4 runs all the way down.
The skies matching the Tigers' mood, with Jordan Silk out just after lunch. Bo Webster followed shortly after, bringing Tim Payne to the crease. His near 12-month break from top-level cricket ending, and he looked positive.
Straight down the ground by Tim Payne, beats the bowler. Big chase down there for Jack Clayton.
Keen to make runs any way possible, Payne's day, however, was short. His innings over in 19 balls.
Oh, and the edge, and gone. That is a beautiful catch.
Not the start the former Test captain wanted, contributing just 6. Jared Freeman fighting back, with his 44 from 65 balls helping the Tigers scramble to 147.
And it will run, will it? It'll run all the way for 4.
Queensland making a cautious start, but a late fight back gave the Tigers some hope. John Hunt, 7 Tasmania News.
Meanwhile, Tasmania's women's side has lost to Victoria in the WNCL. Captain Elise Villani top scored for the Tigers with 73 runs off 89
Strikes that one
balls.
well through the gap, pierced it superbly. Placement's one of her great traits, and she exudes it right there.
Despite her best efforts, they were unable to chase down the target of 282, eventually losing to the Vics by 46 runs. They'll now break for the WBBL before returning in December. Hobart has scored a sporting coup, with the city to host one of Australian hockey's biggest events next year. The sport's governing body confirming the National Under-18 Championships will be hosted at the Tasmanian Hockey Centre. The event, to be held in early July, is expected to draw hundreds of players, coaches and supporters. And finally, Tasmanian sprinter Jack Hale has moved back to the Apple Isle. The former Australian Schools 100-metre champion says he's nearing his peak, and home is the best environment for him to prepare.
It's really nice to come back and relax and be with my family for the next 2 years and put everything into the sport.
Hale will be competing in this year's Christmas Carnivals, which was launched today in Hobart.
Good evening. 15 in Hobart today, Launceston 16, Burnie 12 and 14 in Devonport, 17 in Bushy Park and Strawn, King Island 16, 13 at Smithton and Low Head and just 6 degrees in Lyoweeney. The satellite pictures show cloud covering Tasmania today, and a broad level of cloud is lying over eastern parts of the country, with a frontal band over South Australia reaching down to the Southern Ocean, while thunderstorms have developed about the northern half of the country and it remains mostly clear across the far northwest. A trough is expected to clear Tasmania tomorrow morning, with a cold front also passing over the state during the afternoon, and another trough also remains over inland New South Wales and Queensland. Northeasterly winds of 10 to 20 knots, increasing to 30 knots about the east and south in the morning and reaching up to 35 in the far south. There's a severe weather warning for damaging winds for the Western and Central Plateau districts. A gale wind warning has been issued from Tasman Island to Low Rocky Point, and there's a strong wind warning for all remaining coastal forecast areas. An initial flood watch has been issued for parts of the northwest, north and northeast, and finally there's a sheep graziers warning for the northwest coast. Showers in the top of 21 in Hobart, Huonville and Campania tomorrow. Launceston 19 and rain and 17 in Devonport and Georgetown. Burnie 15 showers in Strahan and 17 in Wynyard. Showers and 19 in St Helens and Swansea and Port Arthur 21. And the UV is sitting at a high 6. Showers about the west and far south on Saturday, extending to most areas during the afternoon. More showers on Sunday with snowfalls possible above 800 metres. And Monday, showers about the west extending throughout the afternoon. Showers in Melbourne and Canberra tomorrow, 18 in Adelaide and 32 in Broome. And currently in Hobart, showers and 12, Launceston rain and 14, Devonport also rain and 13. And Kim, those bad conditions are going to stick around for a few more days yet.
Okay, thanks very much, Victoria. Well, that wraps up your local news for tonight. On behalf of the entire team, thanks for joining us. Good night.